Hi, it's Carol Beth Anderson, audiobook narrator, and welcome to part 8. As far as I know, the final part of my Adobe Audition for Audiobooks video series. A couple of reminders: I am not a professional audio engineer. I just happen to have learned a lot through the years, and I wanted to share with you what I know. But I'm not a pro. I am an indie author and indie narrator who enjoys learning all the little bits and pieces of how to do that type of work. Second, please remember that I'm on a Mac. If you are on a PC or something else, this might look a little different for you, but since we're both using Adobe Audition, I still think you'll find a lot of helpful things in this series. In video 8, we're talking about final checks before exporting to MP3 and uploading to ACX. You want to make sure your files are in really good shape before you do that final upload to ACX, and that's what today will be about. So enjoy the video and let me know if you have any questions. All right, let's talk about how to check your files and make sure that they are ready for upload to ACX. First of all, there's a way to easily check a single file and see if it is meeting the basic ACX sound requirements. Now remember, these are the basic requirements. You could always still have somebody at ACX who's doing your quality control, listen to something, and find something else they don't like. But we're trying to make sure we meet the basic requirements. So what we're going to do is we're going to use something called Amplitude statistics. For those of you who are coming from using Audacity in the past, this is really similar to the ACX check in Audacity, and you're going to get very, very similar numbers. So I was going to talk to you about, well, you might want to bring your file into Audacity and use ACX check, but why do that? Why use a second program when it's not quite as nice and pretty as ACX check, but it works. So let's just stay here in Adobe Audition and see what's happening with our file. So let's select this entire file. I'm just going to double click up here in the waveform to select it. And then I'm going to go up here where it says Amplitude Statistics. If you don't have that, you need to go to Window, find Amplitude Statistics, open it, and then drag it if you want to so that it's permanently over here in your menu. All right, we're going to click Amplitude Statistics. And then we're going to click Scan Selection. All right, it scanned our selection. That's an entire chapter. And then I'm going to drag this because it's not showing me everything. And for some reason, at least for me, it doesn't actually let me scroll up there. So here's what you're looking for. Peak amplitude, according to ACX, cannot be more than -3. Now, I know we're working with negative numbers, which is always confusing. -3.5 is lower than -3, so that's good. We want it lower than -3. -3.5 is great. -2.8 is not okay. We're going to have to fix that if that's the case. You can also look at your total RMS amplitude needs to be between -18 and -23. Ours right here is -20.66. That is perfect. And then the other thing we're going to look at is minimum RMS amplitude. That is similar to what ACX check calls room tone, or is that what they call it? Gosh, I can't remember if it's room tone or something else, but we're looking for your really quiet places. How quiet are they? That needs to be -60 decibels or less. Mine's -94, which is great. That is really, really quiet, and we are going to be really happy with that. So those are the 3 big things we're looking for: peak amplitude, total RMS amplitude, and minimum RMS amplitude. Pretty great. Let's talk about what happens if any of these are off. Peak amplitude. Okay, I'm going to make this one be off. Let's say that I was listening to part of my book and I was like, ooh, this phrase is a little too quiet. And so let's say I decided to amplify it and I added 3 decibels to it. And let's say I listened to it and said, oh, that's still a little too quiet, and I added 3 more. I'm going to edit, repeat last command. And then I listen to it and I'm like, oh, that sounds great. She kissed his hand before leaving. Oh, that sounds just like I wanted it to. It matches everything around it. That sounds great. But what I neglected to see was that this peak right here is over 3 decibels. So I am checking my amplitude statistics. Let's see here. Scan selection. Oh, my peak amplitude is minus 1.45. That is way too high. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to make sure I can see my actual waveform here really well. And I'm going to click this little button that allows me to see my entire file all at once. And I'm going to see if I see anywhere in this file that is going over this 3. I've got it zoomed out so far, I can't see it. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, but not too far, and I'm going to start just doing some scrolling. I'm going to drag this, and I'm actually going to move this thing that I don't really use to make sure I can see that minus 3. Is anything going over the line? I'm just going to slowly look at it. See, since you did match loudness, you shouldn't have any that's over that minus 3 unless you did something manual. Look, there it is. Oh, I just found my spot. And then what I would do, I could even, if I wanted to, just select this phrase and do my amplitude statistics. Actually, I guess I didn't even have to do that again because I already knew it was minus 1.45. And I go, okay, I want to get it below minus 3, not just at minus 3, but below minus 3. So I'm going to go to amplitude, going to have to do some math here. I'm going to say, okay, minus 1.7 decibels. Where does that get me? Oh, look, it gets me below minus 3. I can go ahead and scan that selection if I want to. It's at minus 3.15. If you want a little bit more wiggle room, you can go back and do a little bit more deamplification. And then you can listen to it again and make sure it sounds good, but it will. That was just a tiny little fix. Go ahead and select the entire thing. Make sure we're still where we need to be. Oh, look, everything is great. Minus 3.15, minus 21.32, minus 94.4 on the minimum RMS. So that's how you fix too high of peak values. Always check it again to make sure in case there were too high of values in more than one spot. How do we check it if our RMS is off? Okay, y'all, this is where it gets complicated. If you want to do some research into how to get your RMS where it needs to be, go for it. I'm going to say if your RMS is off, the easiest way to fix it, might not be the optimal way, but the easiest way to fix it is to go to your files, go to match loudness, throw that file back into match loudness. Ideally, and then run it. Ideally, you don't want to do match loudness more than once because every time you do it, it's changing your file, and the more you change the sound of your files, the more they can get distorted. But I have found that when I really needed to throw one into match loudness, again, I've got a high-quality microphone. I've got a high-quality space without a lot of noise. I'm not having to do lots of changes to my files. And so if you've got a good setup, generally you can do match loudness more than once if you really need to. So that's the easiest way to fix it. We would throw it back into match loudness. We would check the amplitude statistics again and make sure that that fixed it, and it probably would. And then the last thing is, and this is the toughest one, what if your room noise is too loud? What if that minimum RMS amplitude is over minus 60 or even close to minus 60? Even if it's minus like 61, I don't know if I'd want it to be that close. Here's the tough thing. If you're struggling to get your room noise where it needs to be, then it may be an issue with your space or your technical setup. And that's not something that I'm addressing on this particular video series. I am not an expert at all of that. I have put a lot of work into my space and my setup, but I don't know enough to give you good guidance there. I will tell you some names I would trust. There's this guy named George the Tech Williams. I've heard great things about him. And then there's Don Barnes. Barnes is with 2 A's, Barrn. I can't remember if there's an E, but if you look up Don Barnes, he's great too. So it's either Barrns or I'm sorry, there's 2 A's. Baarns or Baarnes. I just don't remember which one it is. But if you look up him or George the Tech Williams, they are people that can really help you get your space set up. But you can always try just doing another round of, select the whole thing, doing another round, especially if you've recorded this book and you're like, I got to fix it. I can't fix my space and then go back and re-record the whole book. Try another round of RX9 voice denoise or whatever type of denoiser you were using. And try it small first. Try it at 3 decibels of reduction, and then do it multiple times if you need to, but try not to be dragging this thing way up. It can really distort your audio. So if you're doing that, make sure you listen to it afterwards and make sure it doesn't sound distorted. Make sure everything still really sounds good. Voice denoise is good about doing things without a lot of distortion. And then again, you're going to do your amplitude statistics again. So ideally, if you're struggling with room noise, you need to fix your space and or your technology. But if you've just got to fix this book, you can use the denoiser. By the way, I have a kid on the stairs, so if you're hearing the banging, that's what it is. That's part of being a mom who works from home. I would be doing a lot of punching and rolling right now if I were recording a book. All right, so that's how we use amplitude statistics. Here's the thing. Amplitude statistics is way more important when you are first starting or you have a new sound setup, because you want to make sure, in fact, you can do amplitude statistics on a raw file. Let's open my raw file that I was using in the last video. Let's do amplitude statistics on that, and I'm going to show you why. We're going to scan the selection. Okay, my peak amplitude is minus 4.12, which is actually pretty great. My RMS, again, let's pull this down. My total RMS is minus 31. Now, RMS is going to be off in raw files. I'm not too worried about that. I'm actually not sure what you should target, but I'm not really too worried about that in a raw file. Peak amplitude, if it's super low or super high, you might need to adjust the volume on your microphone, or your voice. But the big thing we're looking for here is this minimum RMS amplitude. I'm in a really quiet space, so my minimum RMS amplitude is minus 87.52 on my raw file. I'm actually surprised it's that low. I didn't think it was that low. So when I'm the quietest, my space is just super, super quiet. So I'm happy with that. But honestly, if you see minus 60 here, you're still probably fine. Keep in mind that usually when you're doing match loudness, it is boosting your volume. So if you are at minus 60 or minus 50, minus 40, if your minimum RMS is pretty high, it's going to probably come up even higher when you do match loudness. And to avoid that, you're going to have to make sure that you're doing lots and lots of noise reduction. And again, that can make your files sound bad. So I'm not sure what the experts say you should be going for here, but really ideally, if your room can be at minus 60 or less, I would say that's probably a good place to look for, so that you don't have to do tons of noise reduction later on. I find that a little bit of noise reduction, I like it, even though my RMS is at a good place. My room noise is pretty quiet anyways. I just think it still helps. I think it makes my files sound cleaner. So yeah, amplitude statistics can be really helpful on your raw files. Once you've been doing this for a while, you're going to know that your room sounds good. You're going to know that that everything is working. You're going to know that your room noise is not too loud. I hardly ever use amplitude statistics anymore because I trust my sound. So again, this is most important when you're first starting. But that being said, I always like to check my files before I upload to ACX. So let me show you how to do that, And here's the cool thing. You can check all your files all at once. It's really amazing. Let me show you how to do it. So I'm going to save this. Okay. I am going to go over here, and I have a program called Second Opinion. Second with the digit 2, and it is Stephen J. Cohen who puts out this program, Second Opinion. I will put a link to this in the show notes to make sure that you can get to it. Second Opinion is a free program. If you find it as useful as I do, I totally encourage you to tip him. There's a way to do that on his website. And by the way, if you find this series of videos useful, I have a tip link in my show notes as well. I always love to get those little tips. It makes me feel great. It's just like a little dose of, what is that, dopamine? Feels really good. So, okay, Second Opinion. You're going to get this installed, get it on your computer, and it rocks. You can check either WAV files or MP3 files. I would say when you're first starting, check your WAV files before exporting them to MP3, because you're going to want to make any changes you need to make in WAV files, not MP3 files. And so if you're checking your MP3 files and then you're having to go back and change the WAV files, you're then having to re-export to MP3. These days, my files are usually pretty good. I do find some mistakes, but it's few enough that I usually just check my MP3 files, and then I do go back and change the WAV files and re-export if I need to. If you are checking the WAV files, make sure that after you export to MP3, you check those files as well, because sometimes a little bit can change with the export process. So make sure that you're checking your MP3 files before uploading them. All right, here we go. I'm going to select WAV here because we're going to be checking a WAV file. And then everything that this comes with like all of the defaults, you can really pretty safely keep those there. So I would go ahead and keep those defaults there, and you should be good to go. All right. Here's what you need to do first. You need to make sure that all of the WAV files that you want to check, or all of the MP3 files that you want to check, all at once are in a folder by themselves. So I'm going to go to my folder that I would be using to make a book, or in this case, a video series. And I'm going to add a new folder. And I'm going to call it Final WAV Files. In this case, I'm going to put sample so that I know it's for this video series. I'm going to drag any of my final files into there. So in this case, I'm just going to use this sample mastered file we've been using. So it's literally just one file. But you could have 20 in here. You could have 100, 300 in here. You can have as many files as you have for the book that you're working on. And then we're going to go back to Second Opinion. If you are finished with your book, and especially, if you're finished with your book and you've already created the retail sample, which is that five or less minute sample that you create to upload to retailers or distributors, you are going to check retail sample included. And you're going to make sure, and all of this is on the Second Opinion website, you're going to make sure that that sample is named. I'm going to pretend that my pickup sample is my sample. It's not, but I'm going to pretend it is. It needs to have a name that ends in _sample. All right? _sample. So it might be the best book ever _sample. And that's how Second Opinion picks it up as your sample. I'm not going to put in here that I have a retail sample included, but if you did, that's what you would check. And the cool thing is Second Opinion will calculate the exact length of your book, and it won't include the retail sample because that's not included in the length of your book. So that's just really kind of a cool thing. So I'm not including that because I just have literally a file folder with one file in it. We're going to say select folder. Now here's where people get off all the time. All you do is you click the folder name. You don't go into it. Just click the folder name where you have your files and click choose. Second Opinion is then going to scan all of your files. This is going to take a while if you have quite a few. It didn't take long for us because we just have one. And it's going to tell me, oh, look, this has -3.1 max peaks. These numbers should look familiar because they are pretty much what we just saw on Amplitude statistics, minus 21.3 average RMS. Now, I'm not exactly sure what he is using for your noise floor. That's the figure I was looking for, noise floor. I'm not sure if he's looking at the average RMS during the tail of the file. I'm not really sure. That's why I like to make sure that it's good in Amplitude statistics and that I know that my general noise floor is always at a good spot. But it is going to tell you if you have any errors in your file. So if we went back, if we made this too loud again, I'm just going to add 3 decibels. Whew, that's really loud. I'm going to save the file. Let's do this again. Oops, I got to move that file back in here. I'll talk about that report in a second. Okay, we're going to move it back in there. It's just because I had it open. It's a mess. But anyways, we're going to select that folder again, choose, and it's going to do it again. And see there, it's telling me my error. It tells me where it tells me my error where the actual file is. And then it tells me here at the bottom any errors. So if you have 20 files and 3 of them have errors, it's going to list them all down here. Now, the easiest thing to do if you're trying to figure out where multiple errors are, or if you just have a long list of files, is in that same folder where you had your files, there's a text file. Open it, and that's going to be, you can make it, you can make it big, you can probably search it. It's going to be easier to find things in here. So you're looking for those errors, and then you can go back, fix those in your WAV files before you export to MP3. Or if you were checking MP3 files, which again, remember you're going to have to change that up here, then you can go back. You need to delete the MP3 files that are bad, go back to the WAV files, fix them there because WAV files are uncompressed. That's where we want to make all our changes, and then re-export those to MP3 again. The other cool thing here is it tells you exactly how long it is. So if it's a 10-hour, 12-minute, 48-second book, it's going to tell you that. And you know exactly how long your book is, which is super, super cool. So that is Second Opinion. Isn't that amazing, y'all? I love it. I'm going to go back here and undo this change I made because that just bugs me to have a really loud part there. So that's a great way to check your entire book all at once. So Amplitude statistics and Second Opinion have got you covered when you're trying to make sure that you're meeting those basic requirements of ACX. By the way, I've never had a book turned down by ACX, and I've been using Second Opinion almost since the start. I think I used only ACX check on Audacity at the beginning. When I found Second Opinion, it just kind of changed my life. If you're wondering how to export to MP3, please remember that was in video 3. You can go back and check that. And again, a reminder that you need to check your MP3 files as well one time on Second Opinion before you upload to ACX. It's just really helpful to do that. All right. That is the end of this 8-part video series. I can't believe we made it. It took a long time to get here. I have so appreciated all of you who've reached out to me and told me that this was helpful to you. It means so much. Thank you for being with me through this. Feel free to ask questions. I may or may not have the answers, but I always appreciate you reaching out. And again, there is that link down there for my Ko-fi or coffee, whichever pronunciation you prefer, if you'd like to tip me to thank me for these videos. Happy recording, happy mastering, happy editing, happy audiobook producing. Have fun.